Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge and welcome to another recommendations video. And this one today we are taking on Feuding Families. So this is a trope that I think is really great. It usually goes pretty hand in hand with enemies to lovers. A good amount of these are going to be enemies to lovers. Not all of them though. They also will have quite a few arranged marriages because how do you fix a feud between a family? You usually decide to join them in marriage. So that's a lot of what we're going to see in these recommendations as well. But this was a recommendation from my request form that I have. So you can request a video if you would like. Just know that they're not always a guarantee. Sometimes it's going to take a long time for me to get to it. But when I'm looking for video ideas, if I'm stumped for what I want to do, I look at this list and I see which ones it's time to do. And I haven't done a Feuding Families one in a long time. The other video I did that was close to this was one that was like true enemies to lovers, right? Because everybody throws enemies to lovers around. So I'll link that video up here if you want to watch it, because that was one I did a couple years back that had a lot of feuding families in it as well. But pretty much all of these books are ones I've read in the last couple of years, so they're ones I've read since then, I believe. Most of them are. Some of these I don't have as great of recollection as others, so this will be kind of a quick recommendations, but I will have all the books listed down below where you can get them on Amazon. If you purchase them using my Amazon link, it does help out the channel. And if you're not going to purchase it, you want to get on KU, well, there's still a link to it down below to give you easy access to pop over to it. So definitely do that. All right, that's enough of an intro. Let's dive into some of these. And of course, we're going to have quite a few mafia ones on here. So let's start off with the mafia Rex in here. And we have, of course, Deviant Hearts by Jagger Cole. No, I'm not done talking about Jagger Cole yet. He has another book coming out this week. I didn't get to read an arc of this one, but I'm so excited for it. That one's going to be another like Greek mafia one. This one starts off the series. This is the first book, and this one is between the Greek and Irish mafia. These two families are like feuding / right on the edge of doing it, and so the heads of their families set up a marriage between this one is Hades. Is this one Hades or Ares? Ares. This one's between Ares and Veen, I think her name is. Neve, sorry. It's been a while since I read this one. And they end up in an arranged marriage together, and they're going to be like, it's going to be in name only, but they have crazy sexual chemistry, so the in name only part doesn't last for too long, and they just have crazy chemistry, and it forges this alliance between these two families that is beautiful for ages to come. Now, the next mafia one we have is, of course, Brutal Prince. I actually finally got my Ada candle in. I can't wait to light it and smell the wonderful strawberries. But right now I actually have my apple cider candle going from the Bright Side candles, and it smells so good. Literally, like, it's a wood wick. It smells so good. Anyway, plug, I am now a brand rep for the Bright Side candles, so I do have my link down below. Anyway, didn't mean to do that, but they also did the Brutal Birthright candles, which you usually see my Riona and Raylan candles up there. But there are still some Ada candles left, so if you want to snag that, I'll have my discount code down below. But of course, most of you know Brutal Prince by now. We have two feuding families. We have the Irish and the Italians, and they are going at each other like crazy. I mean, not officially, that's the thing. This one, they're like right on the edge of a feud. When the Gallo children sneak into the Griffin home and try to, like, they don't mean to crash this party, but Ada accidentally ends up starting a fire in the library where Callum happens to be, and so, you know, things go a little bit awry. And then their fathers are like, you two are going to get married because we can't risk a feud between our two families. So they force them into this marriage, and Ada and Callum, they go at it like mad, but they end up in this beautiful, you know, this beautiful marriage together where they end up deciding to be partners instead of enemies, and it's lovely. I love these two so much. We also have Dark Succession. This used to be The Marriage Contract by Katie Robert. These are the new covers, and I actually don't mind these. I mean, I do like men covers, but I really do like the new covers they're putting. So this one is between Teague O'Malley and Callista Sheridan. And so these two feuding mafia families, that they get ordered to marry each other. And what I loved about this one is that while the families might be feuds, it really isn't an enemies to lovers between Callie and Teague. They actually see a kinship in each other, being children of mafia families. And so they quickly forge a friendship, and they're actually looking forward to getting married. Now, there's other things going awry that are trying to ruin their possible alliance and this possible wedding. So there's things getting in their way. And so it ends up being kind of a struggle for them to be able to be together when it was supposed to be an arranged marriage. That's supposed to be an easy plan. And when things start to get in the way, they're like, hey, we don't actually want this marriage to break up, this to be, foiled. Like, we actually want to be together. And so now, whereas this was supposed to be like an arrangement, they're now having to kind of like fight to be together. And I really liked how it kind of usurped that. And I also will always have a soft spot for this series. It was one of the first Mafia series that I read. So definitely go give this a read or a listen if you want to. But yeah, it's also known as the Marriage Contract, like I said. So really like that one. Let's see, what's the other Mafia one? Do I have another Mafia one in here? Oh yes, there is also Heartless by Jade West. This kind of fits within the, what was this series called? It just flew out of my head, but it's a part of that series where like all the books connect, and some of them are mafia and some are billionaire, but they're all kind of dark within it. And the first one in this, Heartless, is this woman gets kidnapped who's from like the rival mafia family or rival family, and she gets kidnapped and is being held kind of captive by our villain, our anti-hero, and they start falling for each other. Well, it is, because it's Jade West, it's going to be dark, it's going to be kinky, but it also has a really beautiful relationship that forms between them. This one is a trilogy. The whole trilogy is out. You can binge them all at once, but I really liked it a lot. What is this series called? It's just went out of my head. Can't remember if it's called like the Dark Valentine series or Midnight Dynasty. There we go. I got there. I was like, I just got to think for a minute. The Midnight Dynasty is what that like overall was called. There's also The Sweetest Oblivion by Danielle Laurie. This series hasn't been brought up for a while. I know that Danielle Laurie got on the bad side of some people, and so there hasn't been a new book from her in a few years, which is kind of disappointing because there was supposed to be a fourth book in this series, and I was looking forward to it. But now at this point, I don't even remember the books, so we don't know. But I know with this one that our hero is set up to marry her sister, but his eye gets caught by the other sister instead, and he decides that he wants her instead. And one of the scenes that I loved about this so much is that there's someone who like hurts her or bothers her, and he burns down the gas station where they are for hurting her. So he's definitely the like, you mess with my woman and I'll unalive you. And so he ends up switching the arranged marriage from her sister to her because he wants to marry her instead, even though just because he like rescued her doesn't mean she just is all like gung-ho about him right away, because she doesn't want to feel like second best. You know how it goes. So I recommend The Sweetest Oblivion. All right, now let's do a couple historicals here. So we have Never Seduce a Scot by Maya Banks. This one definitely has Feuding Families, the Montgomerys, and the Armstrongs. But the relationship between Graham and Eveline is not contentious. Now, Eveline is deaf. She went deaf from an accident and a sickness when she was younger. And she just kind of went with this accident and pretended that she was daft, because that's what everyone was saying she was. And so because she didn't want to be forced into an arranged marriage she was going to be pushed into at the time, she goes with it. Well, now it's a few years later, and the king is forcing these two families to forge an alliance. And so Eveline is going to be forced to marry Graham Montgomery. Now, Graham has heard that she's daft and that she isn't mentally fully there or capable. And so for him, he sees that he's going to be married to this woman and basically be her caretaker and basically doomed to never have his own family, because he is never going to force himself on a woman who is, you know, not mentally capable to consent, even though that's not fully what they call it in this sense. This is a like medieval Scottish romance. He just knows that it would be wrong for him to push himself on someone who had the mind of a child, which, I mean, good for you, Graham. You have standards. We like it. But there's something about it when Eveline meets him for the first time and is in his presence. She can hear like very, very low tones. And so she can actually like feel his voice, and she's absolutely enraptured by this because her world has been very silent and lonely in these years since she's been deaf. And so she finally makes it known to him that she's deaf. She can actually read his lips if he speaks slowly. And with him, she can actually feel some of his words too, which is very beautiful. And so it just gives their marriage, which had felt kind of like a doom to Graham, gives it new life. And so he is actually now very excited that his beautiful new wife not only is competent, but is actually very into him as well. Now, just because Graham is into Eveline does not mean that his people, who see her completely as the enemy who has, you know, made it into their hold, they don't necessarily accept her. So that is what he's going to be fighting against, is his people coming against her. So I absolutely love this. It's one of my favorite reads of a couple years ago, and I just love bringing it up whenever I can. And if you haven't read Never Seduce a Scot, I hope that you give it a shot soon. You can find that one on Anyplay, by the way. Then we also have The Secret by Julie Garwood. So this one is really beautiful. This involves Judith, and when she hears that her Scottish friend from her childhood is about to give birth, she had promised to be by her side because her friend had her mother had died birthing her, and so her friend is very worried that she's going to die in childbirth. And so Judith, who is English, decides to make her way there. And so Laird Ian Matland, he is sent to like recover her and bring her home. And basically as soon as he meets her, he's kind of just like completely enamored with her and is just so intrigued by her, and everyone else can tell as well. But I mean, she is English, they're Scottish, things are very contentious at this time. And what is even another layer to it is that she is actually the daughter of Laird MacLean, which she doesn't know. So it is kind of like a secret that even she doesn't fully know either who her father is, or the fact that he is enemies of the Matlands. So it's kind of a secret feuding family thing. But I absolutely love this. I love how Judith wins over so many of his people. And when, you know, this secret is going to come out, he's now like, well, it's too late. Like, she's mine. I don't care whose daughter she is. I'm not giving her up. And I love how that plays out. So this is a great one for sure. Then we have, is there another historical? No. Yes. There's also Wed to the Barbarian by Kira Andrews. This one is like, has like a bit of a fantasy bent to it. This is an like historical romance between, and in this, the reason why it's a bit fantasy is that this is an arranged marriage between these two men. And so it's in kind of a fantasy time for the fact that they're okay marrying these two men to each other. So that's kind of the fantasy part of it. But it has two of these heroes getting married off to each other. And the way it begins, it's a very contentious relationship. It's obviously a political alliance. And our barbarian hero is very like kind of cruel to his new husband and kind of sees him as weak and is kind of offended that he's being forced to marry him. But of course that won't last too long, and he very much starts to fall for him. And when things take a interesting turn, our barbarian hero is going to have to grovel and grovel hard to win over his husband, who he is now falling in love with, but he may have alienated past the point of redemption. So we'll see how that goes. Then I would like to share Desire in His Blood by Zoe Draven. This one is a arranged marriage as well between our heroine, who is human, and our hero, who is part of this like, it is a berserker / vampire type creature that there's different planets that they're from. And this arranged marriage is between this woman who her father owes a lot of money, and this guy's willing to pay the debts off to have her as his bride. But really it's all a ruse. He wants to like kill her to punish her father. He wants revenge against her father for something he did that hurt his family. So there's that. So he really doesn't want to be with her, but he discovers when he gets a taste of her blood that she is actually his fated mate. And so he's not going to be able to do all of those things that he had planned. He still wants revenge against her father, but he's not going to be able to get it in the way that he thought, because he's not going to be able to kill his fated mate. And in fact, she's his like blood mate. So he's going to crave her blood more than any others as well. So he's gotten himself in a little bit of a pickle. He's in a little bit of a pickle right there, but it turns out real good, okay? And then the last one I want to mention is King of Wrath by Anna Huang. Now this one is an arranged marriage, but this book takes place while it is while we're in the engagement side of it. And for a year, Dante Russo has Vivian Lau move in and is living with him, and he's planning to use this engagement, which he's actually being blackmailed into by her father. Now Vivian doesn't know this, she has no idea, but her father has blackmail over him, and so he agrees to this engagement and has her like move in on the basis that he's going to do everything he can to get out of the engagement. And he's not going to treat Vivian super well for some of it too, because he blames her and thinks that she knows everything that her father is into, even though she absolutely does not. He doesn't know that. And so he's kind of blaming her for some of that. So yeah, yeah. But as he's falling for her completely head over heels, he, has to reconcile with the fact that, she might actually be the perfect person for me. And when I ruin her father and out him for what he did, am I going to ruin any chance of having a good relationship with her? Who's to say? So there we go. I need to read King of Pride. For goodness sakes, I have the book. I'm ready to read it. I want to read more in this series so badly. So there we go. Those are my books for feuding families that end up in a beautiful relationship. Let me know some of your favorites. Again, check out the other video I made, which will have more recs for you. Check out the Bright Side candles if you'd like some of this lovely smell in your home. Like, oh my gosh, my house smells amazing. It's great. And yeah, again, I have links to all the books I mentioned down below, so check that out. Thanks so much for watching, friends, and I'll see you next time. Bye.